When I wake up in the morning, there's a couple of things I do. One of them, however, every morning is read what is on the MMQB on my Twitter machine. And the editor and the man behind the MMQB joins us now on the telephone here on The Rich Eisen Show. Hello, Peter King. Good morning, sir. How are you?
So nice of you to say, Andrew. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, it is true. Some people make things up. This one I am not making up. Help me, Peter. Make sense of what we saw last night from the Bengals, and I guess what does Mike Brown do about it?
Well, I think that part of the problem here is that the Cincinnati Bengals a couple of years ago picked two young tackles in the draft in the first and second rounds, and everybody said, well, Bengals got their tackles for the next 10 years. They don't have to re-sign Whitworth. Well, with the combo platter of losing Whitworth and Zeitler in free agency, particularly Whitworth, in my opinion, is really killing this team. I think one of the things that Andy Dalton could rely on in the last couple of years, and Whitworth was hurt some, but one of the things he could rely on in the last couple of years is a clean left side, when he went back to pass or when he was in shotgun. And so to me, that is not on Marvin Lewis. That's not on Andy Dalton. That's on the front office for letting Andrew Whitworth go. And at least it appears now overrating what they had in-house to replace him. That's number one. And you ask about what will Mike Brown do. Mike Brown is not one of those guys who normally is going to be very aggressive in replacing a coach during the season. He just doesn't like to do it. Nobody really likes to do it, but some teams will do it if they think it'll help. I would assume it would be Paul Gunther if and when they ever do anything, but I really would be surprised, knowing Mike Brown's history, if he got rid of Marvin Lewis, unless it just became absolutely, like I'm talking about 0-8 or something like that, which I really don't see happening. The defense is good, and it was good last night. And when they get Vontaze Burfict back, I would assume that they're going to be a very, very competitive NFL defense, as they were last night. And so I don't see them going on a long losing streak. I don't see them being great, but I don't think they'll go on a real long losing streak.
Well, they got to go to Green Bay this week. No one or next week.
So it'll be 3 in a row.
Correct. It'll be 3 in a row. Then they get the Browns. I think the Browns are good enough to beat them, but who knows? No one's chalking up wins already to the Browns. But I hear you. The Bengals don't fire people, Peter. It just seemed last night, and my phone was blowing up from friends who are Bengals fans. Granted, fans, that's the key word there. That something that this feels different, that felt like rock bottom for this group.
Well, again, I'll go back to the decisions that were made in free agency. And, I would ask what actually would be accomplished in whacking Marvin Lewis and going with A.J. McCarron. Look, I like A.J. McCarron a lot, and I think he might be better than Andy Dalton. But I doubt sincerely that A.J. McCarron would have done a significantly better job. I do agree with A.J. Green post-game, who said that this is a playmaker's league. And the Bengals have done a bad job in getting the ball in the hands of their playmakers, and that's one of the things that, without any question right now, that when they go back to work and get ready for Green Bay, they have got to find a way, even in double coverage consistently, which is what he's going to have. They got to find a way to get the ball to A.J. Green.
Peter King joins us from the MMQB. I'm Andrew Siciliano, sitting in for Rich Eisen. In Indianapolis, Peter, this morning, word is Jacoby Brissett is going to be the quarterback Sunday when a good friend Bruce Arians comes to town with his Cardinals also at 0-1. Do you get any feeling, Peter, that Luck is at anywhere close to returning?
I've said the same thing for like the last 3 weeks, that when I was in camp in the middle of August, I got the distinct impression that he probably was going to miss 1 or 2 games, maybe 3 on the outside. I mean, I would just say this. If he's not practicing next week, then this is worse than they thought. And the road is going to be longer than they thought. I don't buy we've got to get Andrew Luck mentally right. I don't buy that. That kind of stuff that you've heard out of Indianapolis from some people. But I do think that, their intentions are absolutely correct. And that is that, look, we don't want this to be a recurring problem. So until our doctors tell us that Andrew Luck is absolutely ready to play football, he's not going to play football. I was under the distinct impression in the middle of August that was about a month away. But, we'll see. But I do think if he's not practicing by next week, then all of a sudden I think the red flag needs to be raised.
And can we agree, you and I, that any talk of somehow moving him is asinine?
Well, look, anytime anybody talks about trading, either bypassing a franchise quarterback for draft choices or trading an existing franchise-type quarterback, which Andrew Luck is, certainly, I would just remind everybody to look at the Rams trade when they traded the second pick in the draft, when the top 2 picks were going to be Andrew Luck and RG3. And I would just ask you, what actually did the Rams get from that? The Rams, look, it's one of the reasons why Les Snead was under fire, obviously, that they didn't make much at all of those picks relative to what they should have made. And so I would never, ever, ever trade a quarterback who I thought was potentially a great quarterback. There is no price that is worth that.
Peter King from the MQB. Peter, forget about the negative here, because I think I'm dwelling on the negative here. What surprised you in a good way week one? Because I feel like going into week one, you think you know, but you truly never do know about any of these teams.
3 things. Number one, the ability to throw the ball deep from Alex Smith. I saw it in training camp. Andy Reid told me after the game for my podcast that this is what Alex Smith has been focused on the entire offseason. Number 2, the resuscitation ability of Sean McVay to get the Rams to not only be competent, but for people to say, this is precisely the way this team was constructed. Great defense and play good enough on offense to win games in the teens and 20s. That's what it looks like they are on the way to doing. But again, you don't want to overrate one game. But I think that was a vital thing. And I think number 3, Trevor Siemian. I think everybody has said consistently about the Broncos, look, they're going to have to win in spite of their quarterback. But Trevor Siemian made some big throws in that game. And I'll give you a 4, and it'll be Jacksonville's offensive line and offensive line coach Pat Flaherty to hold and I think they did this in a really, really smart way. Watch the tape of the game, and I watched it, and I know I'm here because of NFL Game Pass, but I watched it on NFL Game Pass on Monday, and the way that their offensive line played, basically they had such narrow spacing between their guys, and they said, in order to get through us, you're going to have to physically knock one of us down. You're not going to be able to slither between us in a 3 technique kind of way. You're going to have to physically beat us up to get to our quarterback. I think was a brilliant way to play last week. So those were 4 takeaways in a positive vein that I liked.
All right, we're going to get to Game Pass, I promise. Good job, by the way, working that in. True pro. But I promised also that I would ask a Kaepernick question just real quick.
Yeah.
Is there anything out there? I mean, I thought by now there'd be an injury, there'd be something. Somehow he would be on a roster, but we're not anywhere closer, are we?
Well, I don't know. We haven't had a big injury to a big quarterback yet. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to take somebody who's going to have the guts and understand that he's going to alienate a good portion of his fan base. Now, he's also going to be described as heroic by another part of his fan base, too. So I think that is one thing that is not, as we consider this, that people kind of forget. But I still think he's going to be signed when there's a big injury, Andrew.
Yeah, I do too, because he simply is the best guy out there, and there's no one even close right now. I don't care if people want to say he's not a system fit, he's this, he's that. He is the best guy on the street, period. Now, Peter.
I've said this. I said, you tell me if Russell Wilson goes down Sunday, who do you want to play the last 14 games, Austin Davis or Colin Kaepernick? That's the only question you ask. I mean, it's and I've asked it over and over again, but you don't really find that out until you start playing your backup quarterbacks, which is what makes the Colts look so dumb, with going with Tolzien versus, signing Kaepernick in the offseason. I mean, but they're not the only ones. There's 15 of those teams. And I issue a blanket statement basically saying that, this should be about winning football games. And you know what? If you're in the position as an owner, a coach, and a GM in this league to try to put the best team on the field to try to win games, and you don't do that, and you have other guys who have no business being in the same sentence with Colin Kaepernick, you got to be willing to take some heat. You just do. And that's the problem that I see with this Kaepernick situation.
And he's still watching from home. And if he is watching at home, he could watch Peter, of course, on NFL Game Pass, which you mentioned earlier. I watch games this week on my iPad as well. Tell me about it.
To me, what saves me in my job is these condensed games that you get when you watch NFL Game Pass. Now, you can also watch live games and all that. You can watch them with coaches' tape. But, my time is fairly precious Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so I watched 3 abridged games this week that I really wanted to see. How did Jacksonville do it? How did Pat Flaherty do it on that offensive line? That really, really helped me. When you can just watch in an hour instead of taking 3 hours, it's huge. Then I think the other part of this that really helps me a lot is it allows me to do my homework from 2 and 3 and 4 years ago. They got old games going back to 2009. I can watch every game that Colin Kaepernick ever played. And it's to me, as a research tool, it is absolutely, totally invaluable. And I love it. We're so lucky at the MMQB to have gotten this partnership with NFL Game Pass because it allows us really to spread the gospel of something we use at the site.
Yeah, I love it. I mentioned it as well. I'm not just saying this because I work there. I do use it all the time, and you can watch the all 22. You can watch any angle you want. Yep. You can watch the old games. It is that easy to use. It takes you 3 seconds to go from the game you're watching to another game. So it's great. NFL Game Pass, NFL.com/Game Pass. Peter King, of course, from the MMQB, themmqb.com. Get the website right. And follow it on Twitter as well. Thank you, sir, as always. Enjoy your football this weekend.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Have a great day.
You too. Peter King, everybody.
The Rich Eisen Show. Weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that video, be sure to download our app. Don't have any memory on your phone? Let's start to delete some of those slow-mo videos you have. And you know which ones I'm talking about.